What up, sports fans? Waxon Wednesday, Jake Waxman, Tal Lava, let two guys talk sports. Let's rock and roll. Sports fans, I just gotta say this. If you aren't watching the Stanley Cup playoffs right now, you are missing out on a lot. And if you don't even like the Stanley Cup's playoffs, well, in my opinion, then you don't like fun. Or at least that's the impression I get from those who don't like watching hockey. But that's just me. I got my bias for hockey. And today, that's where the focus is in this Wax on Wednesday. All on the Stanley Cup, or at least on hockey, for lack of better words. But, oh my God, what? I just gotta say, the Western Conference has been the playoffs in the Western Conference has been outstanding. Great product of hockey. And both series in the Central went into 7 games. I mean, and we're going to talk about one of those series. First of all, great series between the Stars and the Avalanche. Holy cow. Like I said, that series never disappoints. 2 years in a row, Dallas has knocked the Colorado Avalanche out of the playoffs. But the series that everyone is talking about, and the one I'm going to look back on, the Jets and the Blues. Okay, you want drama, you want action, you want it all. You want exciting hockey. This series delivered it all. Both teams did a great job defending their home ice. There's no question about that. And neither one of these teams wanted to lose. But the tough thing about a 7-game series in hockey and any other playoffs where there's 7 games, someone's got to lose. Jets and the Blues. And how about this? The Blues were on their way to facing the Dallas Stars. They were up 3-1. There was about 3 minutes to go. They were cruising. The Jets looked like they were out of fuel. They looked like they were crashing and burning once again. We were all talking about, oh boy, here come the relocation talks of the Jets. Are like, oh boy, what wholesale changes? What are the Jets gonna do? Curse of the President's Trophy. But then all of a sudden, in an instant, nope. The Jets, wow, the Winnipeg Jets, they get their second goal of the game with I think around 2 minutes to go. And then just when you think, and even with the game being 3-2, we thought the Jets were finished. We thought they were done. They were grounded for good, and it was going to be another disappointing playoff series. That's how it was looking until 1.6 seconds to go. The Jets tie the game. Oh my goodness. Even nobody could believe what had happened. I couldn't believe what had happened. I was on my way home. I was checking the score of the game. I pull it up on my phone and I see it's 3-3 going into overtime. I'm just like, what the heck just happened? What in the name of Mike just happened? I thought this was going to be another one. I thought the Jets were done for sure. No, they were not. Give the Jets all the kudos in the world. They did not stop fighting in that Game 7. They kept at it. They kept attacking Binnington. They kept attacking that Blues defense. And you know what? They were rewarded for it with 2 goals to close out the regulation. 1.6 seconds left. Game tied. Winnipeg, you are ridiculous. It's moments like those that make the Stanley Cup playoffs the best postseason out there. And I love March Madness. And as someone who loves March Madness is the second best. The Stanley Cup playoffs has the March Madness beat by just a little bit. But those are the 2 best postseason formats. The Stanley Cup playoffs, though, always lives up to the hype. And this year has been no different. We love Game 7, and you look for Game 7 moments like that. There you go. How about that? 1.6 seconds to go. That 1.6 seconds separating the Jets from either defeat or glory. How about that? And the Jets, it would take 2 overtimes, but the Jets would go on to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. Wow. Just, these Jets are incredible. And much like the Oilers themselves, who keep pulling comebacks in this, the Jets I mean, this Game 7, they were dead in the water. They should have lost this Game 7. But they didn't. They found a way. That's why you keep on shooting the puck and you keep attacking the net. You keep putting pucks on net. You just never know what can happen. The Jets did that, and as a result, instead of ending up becoming a meme this postseason, at least for now, the Jets instead, they not only live to find another day. They have put the President's Trophy curse on hold for the time being, and that's a moment that a team like Winnipeg needs. There's been a lot of talk about this franchise relocating too, and yet having a special moment like this, we all need. Every postseason needs a moment like this, regardless of who you're rooting for. When we get moments like that, it's what makes the Stanley Cup playoffs the great postseason that it is. The Stanley Cup playoffs, always living up to the hype, always delivering, and in this Game 7, another moment that delivers, and one that could end up being a defining moment for the Jets this postseason. If they go on to either make the Stanley Cup Finals or win it all, or win the Stanley Cup, hoist it, for crying out loud, they can look back at this moment. The 1.6 seconds, the moment that propelled the Jets into glory. Because they could have easily just as lost that game, but they never lost their hearts. And, all right, yes, I'm a Blackhawks fan. Blues are our rivals, but the Blues, they played hard too. They wanted it just as much as the Jets did. Just wasn't enough for them. And that Game 7 is one that's going to live in St. Louis Blues lore for all the wrong reasons. All right? Great series, but a lot of pain that's going to come out of that game. Painful memory for the St. Louis Blues. Because a lot of people are high on this series, saying one of these two, the winner of this series could end up being the Western Conference champion. We'll find out if that holds true, but that was a great series, though, between two equally matched hockey teams, with the Jets finding a way to pretty much sink the Blues. But Stanley Cup playoffs, man, Stanley Cup hockey always delivers. And this year, it's no different. I mean, holy cow, I'm going to be thinking about that for a while to come, but Jets fans, rejoice and enjoy. That is, wow. Of course, now, tonight, they're playing the Stars. Game 1. That's going to be an even greater series. And you thought the Blues were tough? The Stars are going to give the Jets a whole lot of problems. So it's up to the Jets so if you're the Jets, use the 1.6 seconds as a rallying cry to rally yourselves up. Play as hard as you can and get to the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time. If they can build momentum off of that moment, that's going to do a lot of good for the Jets on the ice and off the ice. But wow. So I just wanted to take a look back on that moment and give you guys my thoughts. I was as shocked as the crew on TNT who covers Stanley Cup hockey during the intermission. I was just as shocked as they were. Like, what in the hell just happened? Like, I thought for sure the Jets lost. I thought, oh no, this is not looking good. But you know what? Perhaps this Jets team is different than the ones we have seen in the past. And now having an experience like that could be good for the Winnipeg Jets because it gives them that confidence and that belief that, you know what, if you can overcome a 3-1 deficit in a Game 7, you could do anything. You could go as far as you want in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So let's see if this Winnipeg Jets team can rally and make a Stanley Cup run. They're going to have their hands full of the Dallas Stars. That's going to be a great, great series, though. And home ice could be a factor again. Hard to beat. And hey, hard to beat a team on home ice, especially when you got a crowd. The whiteout. Best home ice advantage in the NHL in this postseason. No question. But Jets and Blues, Game 7. Best moment so far of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And yet, this is just the start. Now, speaking of the Stanley Cup playoffs, I just got us so far. All right, so we'll get more into that, and that'll be on Friday Roundtable. When me and Tyler meet up for another Friday Roundtable, we'll continue to discuss the Stanley Cup playoffs, and we'll talk more about these past series, should Tyler want to. The St. Louis Blues, though, of course, they fell short against the Winnipeg Jets, or you could say, St. Louis, you blew it. It's fitting that we're saying they blew it because they are called the Blues. But I will, in fairness to the Blues, their loss seems to be a lot less painful considering the turnaround they had this season, and it's a lot less painful compared to what the Colorado Avalanche must be feeling right now. Always two sides to the story. The thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. Both the Jets and the Stars feeling the thrill of victory, and they play each other tonight in Game 1. But it could have... And I will say this, much like the Winnipeg Jets, Dallas with an epic comeback to beat the Colorado Avalanche for the second year in a row and send them packing back to Denver. Now, in a sense, so I'm just saying both the Stars and, to clarify, Winnipeg and the Stars both had comebacks in Game 7 this year in the first round. So just want to clarify that. But wow. Colorado Avalanche. If not too long ago in 2022, they were the Stanley Cup champions. And they looked like a team that was primed, and I do mean primed and ready to win another Stanley Cup. And they still can. I believe they still can. But now but in the 3 postseasons following that Stanley Cup triumph, they have not made, at the very least, they have not made the Western Conference Finals. Oh boy. Excuse me. And you got stars like Nathan MacKinnon. You got Cale Makar. You got a whole lot of talent on that Avalanche team. One would have thought by now they would have at least 2 Stanley Cups with this core. But as of right now, they're stuck at 1, and another painful playoff loss, another 7-game series, and they fall short, and against a team that has had their number, the Dallas Stars. I mean, I'm not surprised the Stars won this series because the Stars and the Avalanche, they're both evenly matched. I wouldn't say it's panic time for Colorado. But after another playoff exit, and this one an early one, a first round one, oh boy, there's questions for Colorado. Colorado is facing a lot of questions. And one of them being, what is this team missing that they didn't have in... What magic is this team missing from 2022? What pieces are they missing that they have in 2022 that they don't have right now? Do they have the right coach leading the way? Is the general manager making all the right decisions? When you go through playoff losses like that, since the Stanley Cup final, since their triumph in the Stanley Cup finals, and by the way, that 2022 Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche, one of the best Stanley Cup championship teams I've ever seen, by the way. It's just surprising to me that they haven't made it at the very least back to the Western Conference Finals. Granted, the Central Division in the Western Conference is very competitive, but there's a lot of questions right now. And this Colorado Avalanche team, as good as they are, and with all the talent that they have, you got Nathan MacKinnon leading the way and Cale Makar, as I mentioned. There's just what more does this team need to find their way back to the Stanley Cup Finals? Because that team is so good. Same with Dallas. And maybe Colorado has gotten a bit unlucky with some of the playoff matchups and having to play the Stars twice in the 3 seasons that they've been eliminated early since winning the Stanley Cup in 2022. You know, here's the thing. Okay, the window's not closed yet for Colorado. That's the good news. But we've seen Stanley Cup windows can close fast. If Colorado wants to win another Stanley Cup, they're going to have to make some big changes, all right? And most of it being, so far, they don't need to fire their head coach. Their general manager, they don't need to let him go either. I'd say they get at least 1 more year. Maybe some of the coaching staff, some changes need to be made there. And, conditioning also I think is going to be key too. And holding on to leads is going to be very, very important for crying out loud. Because Colorado also had a lead over Dallas going into the third period. And that slipped from their grasp. But Colorado, they just right now they need to find the magic. They need to find that magic that they had when they won the Stanley Cup back in 2022. They need to find that rhythm again. And you got to make some change, not wholesale changes, just tinker some things up with the coaching staff, not with the head coach. He's fine. And players, I think, players have to come together and kind of hold each other accountable because this team is capable of so much more than just one Stanley Cup. Colorado can win another one if they do things differently next season. Now, if they lose again in the first round next year, or they fall short of the Stanley Cup Finals, if they fall short in the first round again next year, then you got to let the heads got to roll. Then head coach needs to be fired, and the general manager needs to be fired. But aside from that, we're all just wondering right now, where does this Colorado team go from here? The window's still open, but we're also some are asking, what changes do they need to make? They're competitive, a great team. Also, I think they gotta win more in the regular season. Gotta be a higher seed. Try to win the Central. Get yourself a more favorable position next year. But small changes need to be made and a lot of adjustments, and players need to come together and talk things out in the offseason because this Colorado team is so much more capable. They are capable of more than just one Stanley Cup. All right, this is a core that can win another one. Great, fantastic core, a lot of talent. Just got to figure some things out. Like I said, got to figure the stars out, of course. Dallas Stars. But players need to come together better. Head coaching needs to change some things up with the coaching staff. General manager. Some restructuring in the organization, I think, needs to happen. Nothing too major. But if next year you fall short again, and especially in the first round, then massive changes need to be made. Because this Colorado team is too damn good to win just one Stanley Cup. They are capable of winning another one. But you know what? Right now, in terms of where the window is, the window's still open, but in terms of how wide open that window is, and in terms of the state of the Colorado Avalanche, I mean the culture's good right now. But in terms of whether or not the focus on winning another Stanley Cup is there, perhaps, or question of whether or not they're poised enough to win another Stanley Cup. Right now, this Colorado team has a few more questions than answers. A lot of work to do in the offseason for Colorado if they want to win one more Stanley Cup. Whew. And now we're going to talk about the Blackhawks. So, draft lottery. The draft lottery was yesterday. Or actually 2 days ago. Congratulations, by the way, to the New York Islanders who have the first pick. San Jose has the second pick. And Chicago has the third pick. For those of you wondering, I think the Red Wings have, the 12th or 13th pick. I could be wrong. Aside from that, here we go again. Blackhawks with another high pick. They had the first pick in 2023. Last year was the second pick, and now it's the third pick. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're going in numerical order. What's next? They have the fourth pick next year? So anyway, to get things rolling there, so we're going to be looking at some prospects. Here's some, you know what? There's a whole lot of mystery as to what the Blackhawks will do at number 3. I mean, this isn't really one of those drafts where there's really a prize, there's a top overall prospect in this draft. It's not like the last two drafts where we had Bedard as the top prospect in 23 and then Macklin Celebrini as the top prospect last season. This year, there's not really a clear, surefire number 1 pick, or at least that's the impression I get. So, a lot of different things that the Blackhawks could do. Some people are saying that defenseman Matthew Schaefer could go number 1, but if he doesn't and falls to the Blackhawks at number 3, maybe you take him, although it's very unlikely. And then, everyone's talking about Michael Misa, I believe, or Misa. Forgive me if I've butchered his last name. his chances of him falling to the Blackhawks are very slim, but if it does happen, this interesting prospect for the Blackhawks, a 6'1" center from Ontario, who played in the OHL, had 134 points in 65 games with the Saginaw Spirit. A lot of people are also talking about Porter Matone, a big Canadian forward. He's got great skill, but his skating's not maybe the best. James Higgins is another one, an American forward. Love another American on the team. Coming off a less than expected freshman at Boston College. But who knows? If developed well, he could do really well. So, the Blackhawks do kind of need forwards at this point. Why not James Higgins? A lot of people are also very high on Anton Frondell, a sharpshooting Swede forward. Great work ethic, and maybe some inconsistency issues, along with a forward from Canada by the name of Caleb Desnoyers. So, still a lot of time for the Blackhawks to think about it, but kind of like with the Bears, I have no idea where this is going. I have no idea what the Blackhawks are going to do come draft night. Are they going to go forward, or I imagine they might go forward, but we'll just see how this happens. All I know is the Blackhawks have the 3rd overall pick. I'm happy with it, and as long as they make the correct... Hey, this will be the 3rd... The Blackhawks have been rebuilding, and next season's going to be critical. So they got to get this draft pick correct. Got to get someone who's going to be a key piece in the future of this team. But a lot of higher expectations will be there for the Blackhawks. So and it all starts with this draft. So hey, I don't know what the Blackhawks are going to do this upcoming draft. All I know is got to get it right. Have to pick the correct guy. Somebody who will fit in well with the Blackhawks system, and while also bringing goal scoring, because the Blackhawks desperately need that. And Connor Bedard needs a line mate that can get him the puck, so both can be a dangerous line mate. That's what not just the Blackhawks, but Connor Bedard's going to need something like that. Someone who can pass him the puck, or he can pass the puck back to that guy. Good, solid puck movement that can help the Blackhawks' offensive attack improve next season, and hopefully resulting in more goals. That is what I'm hoping for. And like I said, many mysteries surrounding this number 3 pick. We don't know what the Blackhawks are going to do, but we still got time to think about it. So far, all I know is Blackhawks hold the number 3 pick in the upcoming NHL draft. On to this day in sports history. And on this day, the 7th of May, in the year 1977, the 103rd Kentucky Derby is won by jockey Jean Cruget aboard the legendary horse known as Seattle Slew, winning with a time of 2:02.2. For those of you who are wondering, Seattle Slew, in addition to winning the Kentucky Derby, would go on to be the 10th horse to win horse racing's historic and prestigious Triple Crown. All right, sports fans, that's all I got for this week's Waxon Wednesday. Anything comments you want to say, questions that you have, leave them down below. I'll try to respond to them, and if you have a question, I'll try to answer it in next week's Waxon Wednesday. And for now, sports fans, I hope you're having a good week. I'll see you all, or talk to you all on, me and Tyler will talk to you all on the next Friday Roundtable. For now, this is Jake Waxman from Two Guys Talk Sports, signing off.